back.
We are back.
Y'all ready to hear me talk again?
It'll be me next week, I promise.
No promises. Welcome to Smut Swap, where we tell you about books that we've been reading. Proud of Kelly because she finished her neighbor's book.
Finally.
It's been 1 week
I think
since you looked at me.
I know. I started it in January.
Ooh.
And
It's almost March.
it was just not an easy read.
No, she sent me some screenshots.
And when things aren't easy to read, like, I'm such a skimmer. Like, I'll speed read if I'm reading a book, but this one you couldn't because of how she writes.
Yeah, it was a treat. I just finished Out on a Limb, which I told you about with the pregnancy.
Oh,
yeah.
that made you cry.
Yeah, I read 2 pregnancy books so far this year. Actually, so far this month. It's not a sign. I promise. I promise.
I do hope, though.
Eventually.
Soon.
Not right now.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
He needs to come back
And live
first
here.
and live
Yeah.
here. Out on a Limb made me cry. The other pregnancy book that I read pissed me off. Currently, I'm reading A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner.
Do you like it so far? Or is it just kind of a random wild card again? Like the last book our friend chose?
So I think she just picked. She just was like, nah, nah, nah.
I think she actually got recommendations from her friend.
Because there was no rhyme or reason to, she picked a fantasy. This one's a romance. It kind of toes the line for me in the sense that we don't have to write every thought that crosses the character's brain, but she does. But I don't hate it. Like, I've DNF'd books because of this.
Right. Like, we almost stopped reading, what's that Geneva Rose book?
Home is Where the Bodies Are?
Yes, Home is Where the Bodies Are.
I stopped, well, I did finish that book, but I should have just called it. Love her as an internet personality.
Yes, she's
don't
the best.
love her as an author, but that's my opinion. I saw that you started reading White Fragility also.
Yeah.
Are you like on a non-fic kind of kick?
No, I think I just kept seeing it on my TikTok feed. And I'm like, I feel like it's the right time to read this book.
Got it.
It's written by a white woman, and I'm only like half an hour in so far. I started cleaning the other day, and I started listening to it, and it was really interesting, but I haven't really like gotten in deep.
Cool. You have to let me know if they talk about white woman tears, because
I'm sure they will.
Yeah,
Based off of what I've read already, I think it's going to come up.
Got it.
But yeah, I'm reading that, Lights Out, and then The Last Love Note got returned before I finished it.
Ooh,
so...
you can borrow my copy when Judy's done with it.
Oh, okay.
I actually own that book.
I really want to finish. I think I'm 80%.
Oh, yeah.
So I can finish in like an hour. It is really sad.
Yeah.
It gets very, like, the ladies in mourning. And that has been my theme this year so far. Like, I read this book, Crying in H Mart, had a lot of death. And there's another one I read that I was just like, I gotta segue. I gotta start reading Onyx Storm. And
get back into the fantasy.
Death of my dragons.
I literally have pretty much only read romance this year. Love that for me. Speaking of romance, let's dive into Leather and Lark. Ruinous Love Trilogy book number 2. Scythe and Sparrow is out now, and so you can expect to hear about it on this podcast too, because I love this series of books.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Here's the cover. Once again, we're just jumping in. I think that this should be the way that we go from now on. No synopsis. Here we go.
And again, we're a dynamic duo of dumbasses, so don't judge us. This is just for fun.
Or judge us and let us have our stupid opinions. All right, so we open with Lark strapping a shitload of fireworks to Andrew's dick. Who's Andrew?
Oh,
you might be wondering. And
surprise.
Literally same bestie. Andrew is Lark's ex-boyfriend?
Lark's a chick.
Lark is a chick.
Okay, thank you.
She is a chick. Lark, refresher, is Sloane's best friend.
Yes.
Remember Sloane from Butcher and Blackbird? So Lark is bestie. And she says, if I ripped that tape off your mouth, you'd probably tell me you're oh so very sorry about fucking Savannah in our bed while I was away, wouldn't you? He nods wildly, his predictable bullshit caught in the glue. I'm sorry. So fucking sorry. I'll never do it again. I love you. I swear. Blah, blah, blah. I'm afraid that's not really why we're here. He then pisses himself from fear.
Oh, gosh.
And Lark informs him she knows all of his secrets. All of them. And then she tells us, he fucked our friend Savannah while I was out of town, and I realized he's not a rebel. He's a loser. And not only that, once I discovered he'd cheated, I stole his phone, and I learned just how wrong I'd been all along about my so-called boyfriend. I found messages to girls, some of whom were too young to know better than to trust a hot drummer who called them beautiful and promised them all his attention. I found more than just a bad boy. I found a fucking predator.
Gross.
One who had slipped right under my defenses, and years ago I promised myself one thing. never again. Lark's inner monologue is all about this grief and how she didn't kill her abuser. Sloane's actually the one who now has to carry that burden for life. And then she cues up a song. Any guesses?
Maybe You're a Firework by Katy Perry?
Katy Perry's Fireworks to get to work blowing his wiener off.
Yay.
Cutting right to the chase, Andrew somehow survives this wiener firework incident. So she, pew pew.
Oh.
To finish the job.
She didn't want him to live his life out as a eunuch.
No.
She's like, sorry, sir.
It's not good enough for you. She feels vindicated once she,
You're done.
So that's the prologue, and then we're jumping right into chapter 1. Okay. She's in trouble. We've got a victim sinking to the bottom of a lake in his car. So she's like, what do I do? Call my dad. He's like, I have cleaners. Get the puke out of the carpet ASAP. And she's like, well, I don't need you to do that. It's not that type of cleaning. And he's like, God damn it, Lark. Call Leviathan and do not give them your name, just this code. I didn't write down what the code was. Okay.
It's insignificant.
It's insignificant. She's like, okay, I'm going to text you every 30 minutes. Thank you so much, Dad. You're the best. Saving the day. Apparently, Lark purposefully crashed into her victim because he's also a predator.
Oh, so she's out for blood.
She is out for blood.
So the first book, they're looking for serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
This one, straight preds.
Straight up predators. She calls her victims locusts.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, okay. This guy was a pervy teacher at a school near her hometown. He was tipped off by another friend. So she waits 3 hours for the cleaners to show up. And when he does, he just texts her, here, like a typical man, here. She approaches the car that he's in. He's masked.
Oh.
And communicates via one-word answers.
Via text, kind of like Lights
Out? No.
That's a spoiler for Lights
So
Out.
she gives him this nickname. She calls him Budget Batman.
Oh, God.
So another masked man approaches, and Budget Batman then takes Lark's gun from her without her realizing. And then he points it at the man, and he's like, yo, bro, chill the fuck out. What are you doing? Budget Batman refers to Lark as Blunder Barbie.
Oh.
Blunder Barbie. And that, I actually laughed so loud. I was like, that's actually really funny. So they're cleaning up her crime scene. Batman tells her she needs to get in his vehicle. It's really more of a get in my vehicle, demand. And she's like, you need to ask nicely. So he picks her up, carries her to the car, puts her in the trunk, because he's like, I can't have her seen with me. I need to get out of this.
Someone might be watching.
Yeah, and he has to haul out, what he deems a mountain of evidence. Somehow she manages to break free from the trunk. We're not going to get into the details because I didn't write them down. And then she walks in the opposite direction that he's driving, and he doesn't know that she's gotten out of the vehicle. I want to say that it was like a Charger, so something that I picture kind of loud.
Yeah, I can see
that.
Yeah.
One of those, he definitely had a rice burner on it or something.
Mm-hmm. Something obnoxious.
Obnoxious. You get what I'm saying. After that chapter ends, we flash forward 1 year. And I was like, here we fucking go again.
I remember the last one did this a lot.
A lot. Lachlan and his boss, Leander, are playing darts with the very much alive face of a man who has brought rainbow-colored fentanyl to the streets.
Oh.
Lachlan's reminiscing about the night of Blunder Barbie's cleanup, pointing out that he's a contract killer, not a cleaner. And Leander says, your job is whatever I tell you your job is.
That's right.
That's right. We have another mention of Rowan and Sloane in this, pointing out that Robbie, a.k.a. Dartface, used to be someone Rowan would go after until he started to play his annual game with Sloane. So a delivery driver arrives. It's pizza. And we're walking down memory lane with Leander, learning about what happened to bring the Kane boys to the U.S. I don't know if we talked about that in Butcher and Blackbird.
I don't know.
We will get a little bit to it. It's to
Okay.
do with their dad, and he was abusive to them, so they killed him. But we're going to definitely get to it.
I don't feel like it was in the first one, but you had already started this
No.
one. No?
No.
Just kidding.
She's lying.
Don't listen to me.
She's lying. When Lachlan finally snaps out of his memories, Leander is preparing a smoothie. Would you like to know what's in the smoothie?
Is it a body part?
Mm-hmm.
Is it wiener?
No. Pizza, beer, and Robbie's teeth.
Ew. Wait, who's Robbie again?
Robbie's the dart man, the dart face.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Robbie doesn't really have teeth anymore.
Ew.
How else is he going to have a last meal? Leander shifts his attention to Robbie, who cries in his chair. Didn't anyone tell you that candy will rot your teeth out, dickhead? Speaking of which, Leander slides the teeth off the counter and into his waiting palm before he plops them into the blender and turns it on. The beer froths, the melted cheese sticks to the glass. It takes a few stops and starts, but eventually he gets the mixture whipped into a thick, bubbly brown paste.
I am so disgusted right now.
Hopefully, it's a good thing we're not having pizza for dinner.
No. All I can imagine is when you're at the dentist and, like, the dust.
Yes.
And that smell of, like,
of your enamel just grinding off into the air. Gross. They force Robbie to drink the smoothie. And this is when Lachlan is like, I think I'd like to retire.
I'm tired of this shit.
He's like, I can't do it again. Leander's like, no, because he caused the loss of one of the biggest contracts that Leander has, which was with Lark's stepdad, whose last name is Kovaci.
Okay.
So
I will forget all of that.
You will. I will remind you. So what? I've got to keep doing this indefinitely? Leander shrugs. Unless you magically find a way to fix the damage you caused, yeah, I guess so. And then we are jumping back over to Lark's perspective.
Okay.
We are at Rowan and Sloane's apartment. Everyone is there. Fionn and Rose. Remember them?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the other brother.
That's the youngest brother, the doctor.
Who's the third book?
Yes.
Will be about.
Yes.
Okay.
Butcher and Blackbird Ovs, and of course, Lachlan and Lark.
Aww.
No one realizes yet that Lachlan locked Lark in the trunk. That was hard to say. Lachlan locked Lark in the trunk.
That's a mouthful.
It really is. He's too busy teasing Fionn about his crochet club and promises he will tell Rowan, much to Fionn's chagrin. Having just gotten the upper hand with spilling the tea on the shit flicker nickname, remember? Rowan was shit flicker. You don't remember. This is why I'm reminding you. Lachlan can't help but stare at Lark. She's just that beautiful. He is very heavily tattooed to cover up scars, and he's missing the top part of one of his fingers, like from your first knuckle.
Down.
Yeah. So he's like, I don't deserve someone as beautiful as her.
I'm missing
because
a finger.
You know my missing finger and my heavily scarred body.
She could never love a scallywag like me.
Who? Me? No. So she goes out on the balcony. He follows her. There's some pretty silly bants about chickens and feathers and crochet. It's really almost endearing, but not as endearing as Butcher and Blackbird, I gotta be honest. They are going back and forth so much on the balcony, and then he kind of growls, fucking Christ Jesus. That was my Irish accent. Just sorry.
You did great.
And she's like, no, it wasn't the Jesus. It was the Batman, the budget Batman. Because then she realizes that it's him because he says Christ Jesus when he's clearing out, you know, the bullshit that she did way long ago in the prologue. So she's like, I know it's you.
Oh, shit.
Okay. I'm sorry. I skipped over a part. So they're going back and forth so much that they end up making out on the balcony. And that's when he's like, fucking Christ Jesus. And she's like, say it again. And he
wait a second.
Wait a damn minute. So he growls it at her. You know, she steps back. She's glaring at him. She's like, repeat yourself. So he does. And then she's like, no, it wasn't the Jesus. It was the budget Batman. Okay. Now that we're all on the same page again. So sorry. I just got ahead of myself.
It's okay.
They rehash that night, each reminding the other of exactly what went wrong. Because heaven forbid she be wrong to her eyes. And heaven forbid he be wrong to his eyes. Like, they're blaming each other. Lachlan claims if he'd known it was her, he would have taken his chances with the fire escape. And spoiler alert, there is no fire escape on the balcony of Rowan and Sloane's apartment. So he was going to just jump over the edge. That was his 13th reason. Lark is screaming about him letting her kiss her. No, about him letting her kiss him. Sorry. Talk to text really fucks me up.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
Mine's really bad.
Mine's really bad. I'm like, what am I even
Especially
trying to say?
when I'm in the car, I'm like yelling to the microphone above my head. It is awful.
For me, her screaming at him like, how could you let me kiss you, is all really funny. Lark tells Lachlan she doesn't know anything and that she's going to celebrate with her best friend and the love of her life, and she will only be nice to him for Sloane. And she slams down his whiskey and goes back inside. So she takes his whiskey and she's like, bam, goodbye. They're celebrating the launch of Butcher and Blackbird. And then Lark like kind of slips away into the night.
Which is a restaurant.
Which is the restaurant
Okay.
that Rowan opened. The second restaurant that Rowan opened. The first one was called 3 and Coach.
I do remember that.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Now, up until this point, we have been splitting POVs between Lark and Lachlan. But new character unlocked.
Uh-oh.
The Phantom. This is why I hate it when people are like interconnected standalones. Because no, if we're picking up with the Phantom, you have to read the first book first. Because you're going to be like, who the fuck's the Phantom? What does he have to do with anything? Remember the Phantom? He's the one who's like, he killed my brother, so I'm going to take his. At the end of Butcher and Blackbird.
Oh, I do think so.
Okay.
At the house with the chainsaw?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so the Phantom is in Butcher and Blackbird's home, okay?
Ooh.
We don't know how he got in there. He's talking in his head about exacting his revenge on them, an eye for an eye, getting Lachlan, and a tooth for a tooth. That'd be Lark. He's also a religious psycho, so there's a lot of the Lord thrown in. We get a glimpse of the Phantom's plan. My focus returns to Lark Montague, the cherished daughter of 2 empires of sin, the beloved friend of the Orb Weaver, the coveted object of Lachlan Kane's desire, and divine inspiration strikes. A new idea, the seeds of a magnificent plan. A plan to not only avenge, but to debride their rotting souls with the cleansing, righteous fire of pain. Of suffering. He promises to bring them all pain and ensure everyone believes Lachlan is the cause of the destruction of Lark Montague. Big talk, right? The worst suffering is not death, it's in living day after day, knowing you forever lost that which you most cherished, most loved, most desired. It's being forced to continue existing in a world indifferent to your pain, to realize how powerless you are against the tide of God's wrath. His chapter was super short.
Oh, because it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
That was the whole chapter.
And that was me reading the whole chapter out loud. Just kidding. Don't sue me. Don't. I don't have any money.
JK.
Okay, and then once again, what do? We flash forward another year, because why wouldn't we?
Wow.
Lark and her family are at her Aunt Ethel's house, and Lark is eavesdropping. She hears her father talking about Lachlan and Leviathan and how people in their family are turning up dead like clockwork. Every 40 days. Consistently. We learn Lachlan has worked for Leviathan for 16 years and certainly has the skill set to be taking down the Montagues and Capulets. Yes, I know that's not their name, but it was very Romeo and Juliet, the names. Okay?
It does sound very...
Okay, because it was Cavacci and Montague, and I just was like, no, it's the Montagues and Capulets.
I'm sure she had that in mind when she was writing it.
100%.
Calling you out right now.
Yeah, Brynne. They seem to think that this is his revenge for being cut loose. We know he wants to leave, but old boy wouldn't let him, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
So basically my understanding is that Lark's family wants to take out the Kane family, and Lark will literally do anything to prevent that from happening, because of the downfall of the Kane family would involve the downfall of Rowan, therefore the downfall of Sloane, right?
Okay.
Lark loves Sloane too much to let that happen, right? Lark's parents then disperse from the meeting and act like nothing happened. Whatever's going on, Lark's Aunt Ethel does not think the Kane boys are involved. Lark says, I don't think the Kanes are involved in whatever's going on. She keeps her eyes down on her work but nods. Definitely not Fionn. Rowan would never do anything to inadvertently hurt me by harming people I know, no matter how thin those connections might be. Says about Lachlan, I don't think he would take a risk that would jeopardize his brother's health or happiness. Absolutely not. Lark is adamant they speak with her parents because she feels indebted to Sloane for what happened while they were in high school. Again, we don't know 100% what happened in high school. Mm-hmm. We will get there eventually.
Okay.
Ethel points out, you can't blame yourself for the things that happened at school. None of that was your fault. Lark tells her that she can't seem to shake the guilt that she still feels and the sense of shame that surrounds her. She blames herself, too, for what happened with her teacher. Ethel tells Lark, you can't second-guess the decisions you made to survive. It's important to note that everything that is happening in this chapter also kind of happens in Butcher and Blackbird, but this is like the elopement kind of part of that book. So Lark's collecting Sloane's wedding dress from her aunt's house, and that's kind of like where we're at this point in the story. In Butcher and Blackbird, they are already at the elopement site. She's over there getting the wedding dress for the elopement. So the stories are happening at the same time.
It's just not.
Yeah. So I know that somebody, if I can find the TikTok, I will link it below. Somebody put out that like the tandem read.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that so that you can read all 3 books at the same time and kind of follow the path that way.
That sounds
so
fun.
If I can find that TikTok, I will link it below. I forget what her username is.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Sarah J. Maas has one or 2 books in her Throne of Glass series, and I had intended to do that, and then I get distracted, and then I started reading The first book?
No, she doesn't have ADHD. She's perfectly sane.
I don't. Do not send me to the farm. But it was still fine reading them separately, but it would have been fun to, like, mix it up a little bit.
So if you read these, please, you can be the one.
I might do that.
Love of family is everything for Lark's mom and stepdad. The vows they made to each other won't be broken by anything. So Lark thinks that when Rowan and Sloane marry, her mom and stepdad won't interfere because Sloane has taken vows. But Ethel's like, they don't care about Sloane because it's your happiness that's a priority, Lark, not her. Like, she's not a part of this family. So Lark's like, well, what if I got married? And Ethel's like, yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit more about Lachlan? Ooh. All right, wedding day for Sloane and Rowan. Lachlan's walking Sloane down the aisle, if you remember. Aww. He's looking at her as he's walking her down the aisle, and she says to him, are you staring at my tits? Apparently, Sloane has also given Lachlan some strict orders, and those orders are, don't be a dick and dance with the maid of honor. He's like, why does it matter? Sloane's like, bride's orders, or I'll take your eye. Because remember, she likes to gouge the eyes out of her victims.
Oh, yeah. And hang them up, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's why she's the weaver?
She's the orb weaver.
The orb weaver.
He can tell Sloane's nervous, so he's like, don't let Rowan drink too much, specifically whiskey. He's going to start singing this one song super horribly, and Sloane's like, got it, give him whiskey. And that kind of eases her nervousness. When she catches sight of Rowan at the end of the aisle, she like kind of relaxes her death grip that she has on Lachlan's arm.
Aww.
And I was like, aw. And he points out to us that Rowan's standing down there like blubbering mess, because I'm like, the butcher of Boston crying
for his love?
For his love, but of course he's going to cry at his wedding.
I know.
Lachlan momentarily forgets that he's supposed to give Sloane away because he's too busy staring at Lark, but then she pinches him and he's like, oh yeah, forgot where we were for a second.
My bad.
So they say their vows, the wedding's over. Of course, this chapter does focus a little bit more on the finer details of the wedding. The group then has a cocktail hour before making their way to a tavern where a dinner of barbecued ribs, fries, and beers is served with napkins printed with a logo of melting ice cream and the words Butcher and Blackbird Annual Showdown on the napkins. So their first meal was ribs and beer and fries, because she was like, I'm starving, I want ribs, after he found her in that maggot-infested remember?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then the melted ice cream is for Lobotomy David, and the fucking cum ice cream.
Oh, God.
And then, of course, the annual showdown is,
their
murder spree. I was like, oh! We love to see it. Everyone is in on Lachlan and Lark dancing together at the shindig. Fionn asks him what the deal is. Then Sloane is mouthing from across the room for Lachlan to dance with her right the fuck now. Right the fuck now. Which Lachlan's like, what? Me? What? I don't hear you. Finally, Sloane walks over to the bartender. She's like, give me a full bottle of whiskey right now. And then she walks over to give it to Rowan. And then Lark taps Lachlan on the shoulder and is like, just dance with me.
Aww.
As they're dancing, they're talking about how they don't like each other. Lark mentions something about Lachlan retiring from his contract to lead her side gig. And he's like, yeah, that's the goal, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Lark tells him it could happen if you have my help. And I kind of need it because I need your help too. Lachlan's like, whatever. Why would I want to help you? We don't even like each other. Lark's like, well, if you help me, I can help you win back the Cavachi contract, and I could get you a contract with the Montague family as well. Lachlan's like, the Montagues never had a contract, and Lark's like, I understand that we've always handled our own shit, but things are definitely changing. Lark tells him the Montague family is going to need to outsource soon with things like protection and fixing and cleaning. It wouldn't be as much work as her stepfather's contract, but it would be enough. Lachlan's like, what's the business? If it's drug smuggling, I'm out. Lark's like, it's definitely not drug smuggling. Is it weapons? Is it shipping? Is it logistics? Is it investments? And then Lark squares up her shoulders and she takes a deep breath and she's like, it's muffins. Muffins? Your family's big bad business is fucking muffins? Lachlan asks her what exactly she wants from him, and Lark tells him, it seems as though someone is killing off my mother and stepfather's business associates. It's spilling into my extended family, and this really isn't the kind of thing where we want police nosing around in our shit. I'm sure you can understand wanting to keep law officials away from people you love, right? Lachlan asks if she has anything to go on yet, and she's like, no, not yet, but I'm hoping you'll be able to help me piece it together, especially with this being the sort of thing that's within your skill set. She's like, how to investigate crime as much as you know how to cause it. I know you've put together information for Butcher and Blackbird's annual games. Lachlan says, so my boss would get the 2 contracts, you get the murder, I get my freedom, everybody wins. That about sum it up? Lark's like, well, almost. And he's like, excuse me, what does that mean? And she's like, well, there's a slight catch. And he's like, fucking great. Can't wait to hear this. And she says, we need to get married.
Oh.
And he's like, yeah, oh my fucking Christ, you're bloody serious. She's like, yeah, we got to.
Can you take me to dinner first?
She's like, yeah, sadly, that's the only way this is going to work. He's like, I don't understand. And she's like,
but why though?
She's like, we need to do this because that's the only way I can guarantee you'll be safe because my family sees you as a suspect in these murders. He goes on explaining further that it has to be marriage. Does it even matter if it's not you? You're a strong contender as a potential threat. So to them, it's better just to put you down and see if that solves the problem. And me vouching for you won't fix it. My parents won't care if they think we're friends. They won't care if I tell them I hired you myself. And they won't care if we're just dating. But marriage? Lark pauses. Her blue eyes glisten as she looks away quickly. Marriage is different. It's a vow they both take very seriously, and they won't fuck with it if they believe that's what I really want. They wouldn't risk hurting me that way, especially my stepdad. He's kind of old school, like when it comes to people he cherishes. Without me, Lachlan Kane, you're going to die, and I can't guarantee the reckoning will stop with you. She gives him until the end of the night to decide if he is in for this fake marriage.
Wow.
We've got our next victim in our clutches. She's making a resin table with him inside.
Oh my gosh.
Essentially, burying the man alive in epoxy.
Ugh.
The whole while, she's just
go.
like, yep. Internally, she's wishing that she could tell Sloane. That way they can have a hobby in common, but she doesn't want to put Sloane in danger. Of course, all of her praise so far have been pedos. Drowning via resin wasn't on my bingo card for this book.
No.
But hey, I'm going to survive. I will survive. Anyway, Sloane's now with Lark, and she's seriously questioning the marriage of Lachlan and Lark. She's crying from worry and being like, please explain to me, because even killers have emotions.
Yeah.
Lark's like, I just really need you to trust me with this one. No questions. I've got it. And Sloane's like, if he hurts you, I swear to God, I will take his fucking eyes slowly with a rusty spoon, like full-on gouging, rough edges, amateur-looking shit, really shoddy work. And Lark's like, yeah, you can do that, totally. If he hurts me, you got it, girlfriend. He is all yours. We're wasting no time here because Sloane and Lark are literally on their way to the courthouse, and as they pull up, there's Lachlan with her Aunt Ethel.
Aww.
Lark's glaring at him, and Sloane's like, hey, you probably want to make it seem like you actually want to fuck your husband on your wedding day. And Lark's like, I just want to get this over with so we can go get drinks.
Yeah.
And Sloane's like, it's your wedding night, husband fucking, etc. I don't think you're supposed to make that face.
Make this look a little believable, please.
I don't think you're supposed to make that face every time you say wedding or married or husband. Just FYI.
Is it my same face when you're talking about blending teeth? I'm just...
Husband.
Ugh.
Stay away from
Ew.
my husband. Right, I say as we enter the elevators to the city clerk's office. Smile. Pretend I want to fuck him. Got it. At least he looks damn good. He's kind of like a combination of the Constantine-era Keanu with Mad Max-era Tom Hardy. Hot and kind of sad.
Oh, I love me some Tom Hardy. He's my favorite. He's my hall pass.
Wow. Adam, you hear... I got her. Got her.
He knows. It's fine.
In City Hall, in City Hall, Ethel gives Lark the ring Lark's uncle gave her, which is like causing Lark to cry. They get to say their vows, and Lachlan stares into her soul before he whispers a line to her in Irish and then kisses his bride. Oof. I Googled it, and as one does when they don't know what something says in Irish, what I think it translates to is, I promise to be a faithful husband to you as long as we live together.
Aw.
Okay, I will tell you, he does tell her what he says later on in the book.
Spoiler.
This was just me Googling as I was taking my notes because I was like, I need to know. I can't wait.
Right.
You're going to make me wait?
I need
waited. To swoon over him right now. Right fucking now.
Pull yourself together.
Pull myself together. Oh my God. Lachlan and Lark meet up in the crafting room. No mention of the body table yet. This is Lark's crafting room in her house. And they're basically there to form their plan. Lachlan meets Lark's dog. He is an American Akita, and his name is Bentley.
Oh, I love Akita.
He's cute. Essentially, they're planning on how to convince Lark's family that they're in love and how to introduce Lark to Lachlan's boss. The plan is to have Lark meet Lachlan's boss ASAP after meeting the parents. Anyway, while this plan is forming, Lark's casually sanding down the body table. Suddenly, she gasps loudly, and Lachlan takes a few steps toward her, thinking she's hurt herself. She's like, no, I'm fine. She doesn't sound fine at all. You sure about that, Duchess? Very sure. Something wrong with the sander? I can have a look. I take a few very slow, careful steps around Bentley, but Lark's like, go away. I'm pretty good at taking things like that apart. I could probably fix it. No, I'm good. Lark's entire body is tense, from the palm she presses her weight into, to her tight shoulders, to her lips that are set in a prim line that traps whatever words she was about to say. I just realized I should put a star right here. Lark nods down to her hand where she's placed it across the source of scoured epoxy, but she doesn't lift it away, not even when I edge into her space to stop at her shoulder. Yep, right there, a big black glittery star. He agrees to go get a star, but is like, what is that rank ass smell? And she's like, it's the dog. And he's like,
he doesn't know it's a body table?
No.
Oh, God.
No.
I thought he knew.
She's like, no, it's the dog. And he's like, you got to change his food with his farts being that rancid.
What the fuck is that smell?
And she's like, yeah, I'll take that into consideration. And then they're moving her body table up into her apartment.
Is it not clear resin?
No. She
I thought it was clear.
She put stuff in it. You know how you can put beads and stuff in it?
Yeah.
So his body and also things.
Okay.
She's really reluctant to get into the elevator, and Lachlan's like, I'm sure it's fine. And she's like, it did get stuck when my stepdad came to tour the place. It's had mechanical work done since then. He's like, it's going to be fine. And wouldn't you know it, the elevator grinds to a halt.
No.
Lark kind of starts to freak out. Lachlan's like, the lights are still on. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Then they start flickering, and she's freaking out even more. And that's when the lights go out entirely, and she's in full-on panic mode. And Lachlan's like, I don't know what to fucking do. She calms down a bit, even though there are still tears coursing down her face. Lachlan's like, I can lift you out of here and take a look at the mechanism. I'm pretty handy. But she's like, I can't leave my dog in here. She calls Sloane straight to voicemail, calls Rose. They're chatting away for an hour while Lachlan's fixing the elevator. They finally make it to the apartment, or into the apartment, and Lark tells Lachlan she's done for the night. He cooks enough food for both of them to eat, but she won't come out for dinner. He wakes up later, having a nightmare, goes to refill his glass with some fresh water. When he walks out of his room, he sees Lark, and she's got a guitar and her headphones and some paper around her. And she's singing quietly to herself the same sequence of numbers she was whispering while she was trapped in the elevator. I didn't write them down. They are important, and I will talk about them later.
Oh.
So the whole time she's whispering these numbers, and he's like, what the fuck do I do? So at this point, I was like, okay, I'm having a really hard time focusing, so I'm going to go on Spotify. The book is available on Spotify for the premium holders. And I was like, let me double dork this shit, which means that I listened to the audiobook and read along with the ebook because I was not moving fast enough, and my loan was going to be up in 3 days. And I was oh, we got to go.
You're like, I got to get through this.
Lachlan decides at the start of this chapter, he's going to text Sloane and be like, hey, what the fuck is up with your best friend? Because why doesn't she like enclosed spaces? And Sloane's like, here's a novel idea for you. Why don't you ask your wife why she doesn't like enclosed spaces? And he's like, well, I just don't think she'll tell me, so why can't you?
Spill the tea.
And I thought it would be fun to read the text exchanges that happen after this because I was like, oh my God, it's so fucking funny. Sloane's reply takes a moment to come through, which I soon realize is because she spends that brief time yelling at Rowan about why I'm such a dickhead. Sloane, you think I'm just going to cough up my best friend's history on a platter for you? Lachlan Kane, be so fucking for real right now. Rowan, hey dickhead, my wife wants to know why you're such a dickhead. Rowan, should I give her the long version or the short version? Sloane, do you honestly think I would tell you? Seriously? Go fuck yourself. Rowan, secure your eyeballs. Repeat, secure your eyeballs. Sloane, if you're having trouble with your marriage and talking to your wife, why don't you crack a fucking book? A romance book. Not more of your history of leather bullshit. It's literally an introduction manual or an instruction manual for dumbasses like you. Sloane, and get fucked. Sloane, metaphorically.
I love it.
It's the tag team. It's the tag team.
That would be you
yeah.
in a text. Oh my gosh.
I'm
just immediate rage.
Immediately. Yes. You're getting the business. You're getting the business from me. Line up. Lachlan talks through how Lark's been different since the elevator. Then he buckles down to enlist the help of Sloane and Rowan to pull Lark out of her shell. They're like, okay, let's meet at Butcher and Blackbird. He texts Lark. It just says, hey. And I was like, what the fuck?
Hey, girl.
So, hey, she's like, okay, cool. We're all good. We're all meeting for lunch. At lunch, Lachlan's quietly observing. One thing that he notices that stands out to me is Out in the world, it's like she needs to be everything to everyone, with nothing left for herself at the end of the day. And this is exactly the time where this woman approaches a table, and Lachlan's like, fuck, on edge.
Oh.
And her name is Claire Peller. Claire?
Also my daughter's name. That's why we're reacting like that.
Yeah. She speaks to both Rowan and Lachlan, who are like, this is my wife, my wife, my wife. Claire laughs when Lachlan intros Lark, not believing that he's married. Claire takes a call and leaves, promising to stop by Lachlan's shop one day soon to catch up. Ooh. And Locke's like, fuck this. She's up out of her seat.
Who is this bitch?
Leaving immediately after. Rowan and Sloane are like, you better get your wife before you have to bail her out of jail. And he's like, what? What do you mean? But he does go after her. He finds her, and she is literally stalking this woman down an alley.
Stay away from my husband.
Stay away from my husband.
We'll explain that joke in a little while.
Yeah.
Editing Brittany here. We did not explain the joke. We were at Kelly's stepson's hockey game, and I made a joke about gray hair really doing something for me, and she turned to me and said, stay away from my husband, just like in this episode, and that's essentially the joke.
So he grabs her by the neck, and that's when they finally talk.
He says, sweetie, come here.
Come here, baby girl.
Hey, sweetie.
Duchess. She thinks Claire is the reason he hates her so much, believing that when he was sent to clean up her mess on Halloween, he left Claire and ruined his chances with her. He tells us that Fionn is actually the one who proposed to Claire and was shot down, and he didn't want to leave the party because he wanted to take care of Fionn. You know, typical oldest child shit. Gotta take care of your fucking kids. God. She's like, Claire wants to hook up with you. And he's like, yeah. And I'm not interested. He's like, my missing fingertip. Have you seen me and my scars? I'm not interested. And she's like, so you hate me because I ruined your chance at convincing Fionn to come home? And he's like, bitch, I don't hate you, but I sure would like to talk about your plan to cut off Claire's face.
Can we circle back to that?
Can we please talk about what we're actually here for? My God. She laughs and she's like, bye. And she literally flips him off.
Really?
Yes.
Bye, husband.
Bye, husband. Love you. And he's like, okay, I got to get my shit together. I'm going to hunt her down. I'm going to hunt her down. So he found her trophies.
The table? Are there many tables?
No. He hunts through the apartment. He finds a coaster made out of a boot, maracas made of human skin and teeth, and a snow globe that has a severed finger and a ring inside of it.
Did he appreciate the maracas, though, as somebody who likes leather?
He's like, oh, look at this. Fancy. I could make them better, but you know what? Not bad for a beginner, a novice.
My gosh. Arts and crafts with body parts.
He flat out asks her, are you a serial killer? She's like, who, me? What? No. And then she's like, I'm actually a multiple deleter. And then she makes an espresso because why wouldn't she make an espresso? But yes, a multiple deleter.
Me? Murder people?
No. I just delete them. These headphones are
they no longer exist.
Floating down my head. She makes an espresso because why wouldn't she? He's like, back up a second. How many? She's like, 7? And he's like, the fuck? Like, you know, the big eye emoji. And she's like, oh no, definitely 8. But is there a grace period? And he's like, absolutely not. And she's like, ooh, you better make it 9 then. And he's like, you deleted 9 people? You, Lark Montague. And she's like, it's Lark Kane, baby girl.
Get it right.
And he's having a crisis because he doesn't feel like his name is as impactful as either of her family names, and his name brings a myriad of other dangers. Suddenly, she's like, actually, it's 10.
No, wait.
He's like, why? So that no one I love has to do it for me ever again. Her words.
I think I have a guess as to what happened.
Her words are like a blade that slips between my ribs. Sloane, I ask, my voice low. Did she? Is that what happened at the boarding school? And then she's like, well, this has been fun, but I've got to go.
I have a table to stand.
She grabs her bag and she's like, all right, and we're going. And she's out, you know? He's a little shell-shocked, but then he's like, stop right there, Lark Montague. And she's like, not sure who you mean. And he's like, Lark Kane, we need to talk about this. She's like, no, we're good. And
Shan't be doing that.
He's like, finding out that you're married to a serial killer certainly warrants a conversation, no?
I think so.
She finally tells him why she hasn't told Sloane that she's a multiple deleter. I haven't told Sloane because I love her, Lachlan. I haven't told Rowan because I love him. They expect me to be a different person than the one I am. Everyone does, and I don't want them to be disappointed. I don't want them to think the worst of me, but you already do. You have from the moment you first laid eyes on me. So what does it matter if I tell you? What is it really going to change about living with you? You'll like me less? With a sardonic snort of laugh and an eye roll, Lark turns away. I've got bigger things to worry about than how much less you'll like me. And then she leaves him alone with his thoughts. He's like, I know nothing about Lark Kane. Like, you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Did you watch that?
Yes. But he's determined to find out more. Asked me if I remember anything that happens besides the Red Wedding and Daenerys losing her mind in the last season. The answer is no.
Okay. I'm just proud of you that you've actually watched something with such a cult following, such as Game of Thrones, because we know how she can be.
I've also watched Friday Night Lights, the television series, multiple times.
Oh, I've only seen the movie.
First of all, it is so... What do you mean, oh? Excuse me?
Isn't it like... It's always the same thing over and over happening?
It's a football soap opera, and you know what?
There's a game, somebody's injured.
And you know what? Corey and I really bonded over our love for that show.
Wow.
Because Corey loves it.
Oh, so do my parents.
Oh.
Clear,
clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose Ann and Ralph.
I think Adam also liked that show too.
I made Eric watch it with me. He loved it. He was like, we
Really?
should watch it again. And I was like, don't threaten me with a good time.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
That's one of my comfort shows, you know?
Maybe I'll watch it at work.
You should.
During my busy work.
All right, we got 15 minutes. Let's buckle it down.
Buckle in.
Strap in, ladies. Lark ends up falling asleep in her chair for a nap because she's not sleeping. Same. When she wakes, Lachlan's there with a terrible cup of coffee. She's like, I gotta walk the dog. And he's like, I did that while you were napping. And she's like, my dog?
Yeah, I forgot they had the dog, the Akita.
Did you burp?
No, there was like a fuzzy floating.
I was like, did you smell my breath? Like, what is happening?
No, I did not.
So she's surprised that her dog let him walk him.
Oh.
She makes them good coffee, he makes them good breakfast, and then they're off to the old folks' home because Ethel demands their presence. Just kidding. He's meeting her parents today.
Oh.
When they pull up to the house, Ethel's like, I love him. As he helps her out of the car. Lark's like, then maybe you should have married him. Then he's reaching back to help her out, and then he's like... They're still holding hands as they're walking up to the home, you know? They had to go get Ethel out of the old folks' home to go to Lark's family home. Okay, circling back. Lark's sister is like, bitch, I can't believe that you're married. Everyone's losing their shit over this, but Ethel's like, it was my dying wish. She had to do it.
For Granny.
And I was like, oh my God, Ethel, you're so funny. I love you. The whole chapter is basically outlining that Lachlan's going to retire from Leviathan. Leviathan will get the contracts for their family. No one's happy about it. Lark's mom tries to overturn the plan, claiming that's a conflict of interest. Ethel's like, too bad my lawyer and nurses agreed I made this decision as the matriarch of this family, and I was of sound mind doing it. And I'm like, Ethel, go off, queen. You tell her. Oh, this is still Ethel. Lark is the security officer of this bitch, and she gets to say so, and no one can overturn this decision. Hell yeah, Ethel. Lark finally convinces her dad that she's in love with Lachlan, and then they can take their leave. Lachlan hits them with a, I know you have no reason to trust me. Trust me, Mr. Kavachi. Lachlan says. He lets the handshake go on so he can interlace his fingers with mine. And I know there's more going on than what we discussed today. My word is worth my life. I made a vow to Lark. I will protect my wife. I forgot to mention that Lark tosses out that her name is now Kane and is like, look at my new driver's license. You see how it says Kane right there?
Wow.
And then Lachlan's like, so what's the deal? Ethel's like, okay, so Lark never took Kavachi as her last name. Her mom did, so Lark has always been Lark Montague. She always said she would never leave that piece of her dad, Sam, behind, but she did it for you. I can now feel Lachlan watching me in the rear view, but I can't bear to meet his gaze. Your wife just broke her family's heart, Ethel says, and she did it to save your life. And I was like, damn, dude.
Dang.
damn.
Watch
Watch out for Lark. Lark basically refuses to let herself feel anything for Lachlan until he apologizes for shoving her into the trunk of the car. No matter what he does to help her sleep, he gets her silk eye masks and makes her herbal tea. She's like, nope, not interested. No apology, not interested.
He won't apologize.
He doesn't know that she wants him to apologize.
Oh, okay.
We got to play mind games.
Yeah, we do.
Instead of just asking for what we want, we're like, why can't you figure it out?
Figure that shit out.
She's thinking about him a lot as she's sitting with her aunt at the old folks' home. Ethel's cancer is worsening. She's hacking up her lung. Medical professionals come in to take care of her. She holds Ethel's hands through the needles and sings to her. Then Ethel's like, hey, go down to the lobby for some candy. And in the lobby, Lachlan happens to be waiting there, looking like he's about to crawl out of his skin. He won't tell her what's wrong, only that Leander wants to meet with them. She agrees to meet with him once she's done with Ethel, and then she returns to Ethel's room. And guess what? That old lady sits there and pretends that she's sleeping.
I've done nothing.
And she's like pissed that she didn't go with Lachlan. She like peeks her one eye open and she's like, what the fuck are you still doing here? Go with your mans. He ends up at Leander's house and is greeted with a gun to the face before the psycho man. Leander's like, tee-hee-hee, just kidding. And then they're like, okay, business time. Let's talk about it. They're striking up a deal for Lachlan's retirement. One thing Lark is adamant about is one job being completed before Ethel passes so she can die knowing her family is safe. Leander's like, deal. Draws up a contract. Of note, Ethel made Leander a batch of the famous Montague muffins and was adamant that only Leander could have the muffins. So it's no surprise when old boy passes out. Ethel always gets the last word. Leander, you fool. They take advantage of this time to use the office space to conduct some research. Lark, of course, looks up a predator and is like, what? What do you mean? When Lachlan's like, is the perp the one after your family? This guy that you're looking up? And she's like, no, I was just curious. Then they search up the family's nemesis. His name's Bob Foster.
Robert.
He's also in the baking industry. With your baking banana Fosters, dude, or whatever.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking Foster's, Australian for beer.
I don't even know if that's what he actually makes. Lachlan has started showing up now for Lark in unexpected ways. This time it's at the nursing home. They're going somewhere, and the topic of the trunk is finally broached. That night we met, he says, his voice soft with regret. The way I acted, the way I took my shitty attitude out on you, putting you in the trunk, it wasn't right. I'm sorry, Lark. I know what I did was cruel. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could take back a lot of things, but I can't. I can only tell you I'm sorry, and I'm not going to ask you to forgive me. I square my shoulders and tip my chin. Well, that's kind of a half-decent apology, aside from the weird forgiveness part. I'm not going to ask you to forgive me because I want to earn it. Lachlan takes the final step closer. Gently, he takes the strap of my bag and slides it from my shoulder, and when I do, you can let me know. Now, where did he take her? You're probably wondering, and I'm here to tell you that he took her to a sleep retreat because she literally does not sleep.
Aww.
He decides to show her that he actually cares. I've noticed your sleep issues. I'm making you take care of yourself. She's overwhelmed and blurts out how the relationship is hard because it's fake and she shouldn't care. And he tells her that even if it's fake, she doesn't have to worry about him stepping out. When he makes a promise, he keeps a promise and he's in for life. So even though their relationship and their marriage is fake, he's like, hey, baby girl, we took vows and I'm here for you for life, even if it's fake the whole time.
Aww.
They check her into the retreat.
I got you, boo.
It's me and you, baby girl. So they check her in at the retreat, and he's like, I'm going to take care of Ethel and Bentley. I need you to actually rest. But guess what?
She breaks out?
He ends up sneaking her out at 11:02 p.m., specifically 11:02 p.m.
But why, though?
Great question. He's been working on a surprise for her all day in the form of one Dr. Lewis Campbell, the headmaster of the school Sloan and Lark attended, who helped cover up the assault on a shitload of students. He's tied up in a chair in his cabin as Lachlan outlines every grievance he's ever had with Dr. Campbell. Lark waltzes in with a toolbox, kit complete with glitter and gold stars. She's here to exact her revenge, which I am going to spare you because some things should be left to the imagination. You can figure it out.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I could barely handle the damn teeth.
Yeah, that part was vile. And so far, from the jump. Anyway, Lachlan's partner in crime from that night, Connor, is there.
Hey, con man.
He takes Lark back to the retreat so that Lachlan can clean up. At 3 a.m, he's home and Lark calls him. They chat for a bit and Lark's like, can you read to me? So he does. He reads her the script of Constantine, which is Lark's favorite movie. She's like, have you watched it yet? And he's like, yeah, once or twice. And then he's like, just kidding. I've actually watched it 12 times.
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I've never seen it.
That and Dogma. I want to watch those again.
Well, I've never seen either of those.
Movie night.
Yeah. I don't know why I said that so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why I'm like this. So they joke more. Lachlan ends up reading her to sleep, muting his phone once she is asleep so that he can be on the line when she wakes up. So he doesn't hang up when she's asleep. He's like, let me be a teenager and stay on the line.
Aww.
Run up the phone bill so that her mom can bitch at her later.
Right. Grounded for life.
All right, now we're picking up in Lachlan's leather workshop. He's expecting Lark. They have drinks date later tonight.
Oh.
So he's surprised to hear the bell in his shop tinkling a little early. A man walks in and he's like, hey dog, it's me, Abe. You remember me? Well, Abe commissioned Lachlan to refurbish a saddle. Based on some of the things that Abe says to Lachlan, I'm like, that man's the Phantom. Let's not forget, someone is out to get Lachlan.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, as Lachlan has his back turned to Abe, Lark enters the shop. They talk about riding briefly. Abe finally tells Lachlan the additions he wants to the saddle. He asks Lark about being a believer, and she's like, not anymore. And then he quotes some scripture at them and leaves, and I was like, Phantom, I fucking got you.
Got you in my sights.
It's you. Okay, so Lachlan gives Lark the keys to his car, and he's like, hey, go warm this up for me. I'm going to take a delivery from FedEx into the shop. She's like, okay, got it. There's a surprise waiting for her in the car. An audiobook starts playing, and it's a smutty one.
Oh my gosh.
She texts Sloane, who is confessing to telling Lachlan to crack a romance book to learn to talk to Lark. She's like, I gotta go because Lachlan's coming. She locks him out and blares the audiobook. Lachlan's like, fuck. She opens the door and stands super close to him and teases him like, what's the title? What's it called?
Oh my gosh.
And she's surprised when he tells her what it's called. And she's like, let's listen to it on the way. And he's like, no fucking chance.
This is my Smut.
This is my book.
Get your own.
They're on their way to this club to gather intel. They almost get caught, and they end up hiding in a closet. Lachlan's like holding her close the whole time, and he's whispering words of encouragement because, of course, small spaces. She's panicking.
Aw.
She's like, I want to kiss him. And he's like, not until I know you forgive me. Otherwise, this won't work, and I want it to work. Before she can say anything, he gives her a small apologetic smile, and then he opens the closet door and gets out. They make their way back through the club. From the office, Lark gets a text pertaining to the murder of the headmaster from Sloane, who is like, if you're like me, I wouldn't love you any less. It's more detailed, of course, because it's, Sloane talking to her bestie. You get it. Lark's like, oh my God, finally she knows the truth. They agree to talk about it soon. She's out on a patio outside the club when Lachlan comes up to her. She decides this is when she's going to tell him that she doesn't like small spaces because of the home invasion that resulted in the death of her father. Her mom hid her and her sister in the closet, and the numbers that she recited were the times on the alarm clock she could see through the crack in the closet door while they waited for the invasion to end. I don't know if you can hear the drilling. We're not sure, but anyway. She then thanks him for Dr. Campbell and presses her hand to his chest as she kisses his cheek. Then he takes her home so she can go to Leander's house, or so he can go to Leander's house. Once there, he sends a message joking about receiving his first gold star from Lark.
Aw.
She smiles and starts writing a new song. They go to this gig that Lark has spent this whole book preparing for, basically. The plot was kind of scattered.
Got it. I'm like, was she a songbird this whole time?
She has been a pop star, this whole time.
Oh.
The tension is so thick, you can cut it with a knife. Because before the gig, Lachlan's like, here's this harness that I crafted for you, because I am a leather maker after all. Harness, do you follow Sammy Hefcoat on TikTok? She's like the British woman who's like, it's Thursday, let's get dressed. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, but I've seen those.
Okay, she always wears a harness.
I always see those harnesses and I don't like them.
Well, she's who I thought of. I love her little edginess.
I just don't understand them, but I'm in a frumpy sweater.
Yeah,
so
it's okay.
Here I am.
It's okay. Anyway, she's like, I'm going to wear it for the gig tonight. She decides it. They're going back and forth. It's like a precipice moment. We are nearing the 75% mark at this point, and they've only kissed once at the beginning. So, it's time for the smut to be unleashed.
The smut. The one chapter of smut.
Lark also gave Lachlan a gift, and she's like, you can open it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was a blowjob.
She says you can open it. No, you can open it at the gig when I give you the bat signal, which is an original song that she wrote in which she tells him that she's forgiven him.
Aw.
This is when Lachlan realizes that he's fully in love with Lark. I never wanted to be in love, afraid of the decimating power of its loss, so I buried it, starved it, tried my best to keep it out, but Lark has blasted through every defense, a supernova in my life, and now as she sings about pain and longing and the fire that I now know burns us both, I can't fathom my world without her. The one thing more powerful than my fear of losing Lark is my consuming need to be with her. This is the bat signal, of course, and what she's gifted him is a remote.
Oh, God. To the vibrating panties?
Yep.
Oh my
And she's on a stage.
What?
She's on a stage mouthing directions at
Plot
him.
twist.
She's like on stage. She's playing the cello for the next song because our girl is multi-talented.
Okay.
So she's hidden, no one can see what's going on. You can use your imagination. She on stage in front of probably hundreds of people.
Oh my gosh.
When she looks out from the stage at the end of the song, Lachlan is no longer in the crowd, and she's like, what the fuck? Did he abandon me? So she goes into the bathroom, and she's crying, and then all of a sudden, the door kicks in, and he's like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, you left. And he's like, do you not check your messages? He texted
You
her.
dumbass.
He texted her, dressing room now. She's like, well, I didn't have my phone. So this whole time that she's in the bathroom crying, he's pacing back and forth in the dressing room waiting for her.
Where is she?
He's like, let me see that toy. And then he cuts her underwear off and chokes her with it while he's using the toy on her some more. Literally, I was like, sir?
Things have changed.
Like, what? Some dude from the band almost walks on them, and Lachlan's like, get the fuck out.
Oh my
So then they go gather Lark's instruments, and Abe is there quoting more religious shit. He was at the gig also. He leaves,
watching
though.
this monstrosity on stage.
He's like, I saw you come on the stage, you fucking nasty bitch. Well, he leaves before Lachlan sees him. Obviously, they can't get home fast enough. We gotta fuck each other's brains out. That's basically all that happens in this next chapter. There are safe words. This time we have, it's not chainsaw.
Oh, okay.
It's red, green, yellow, stoplight. Typical.
Cutesy.
Spoiler alert, they're not used. After they're done, they go back to Leander's house to try to search up some more suspects in the murder mystery. They come up with the name Stan Tremblay, who is the aunt's enforcer and super close friend of the family. Lachlan.
Oh, yeah, I forgot there was a murder mystery.
Yeah. Lachlan doesn't think Lark should discount anyone based on his own experiences within the world of crime, as even those closest to you can turn against you. So they're seeking out info on old Stanny boy. Spoiler alert, he's dead. It's a homicide. Lachlan is like, don't let her see that you're scared. Don't let your fear show. Lark's afraid too. Stan was closer than the others in this situation, so it's feeling a little bit more close to home. Lachlan gives her a big pep talk about bravery, and then they're fucking on the couch with some added butt stuff to ensure the smut is fresh and not repetitive.
That'll be on the bingo card too.
He tries to convince her not to shower before their mission this evening, and she's like, Connor doesn't need to smell sex on this mission, you fucking freak.
Why would you not want
You can't fuck me into
shower?
submission, and I'm insisting on going. And he's like, yeah, I figured, you're stubborn. But yeah, like, why would you not want to shower? Their mission's to get into Stan's systems because they'll glean way more information from his than Leander's. Having to break into a morgue to steal a bit of the dead man because, biometrics, of course.
Okay.
They take his thumb and his index finger. He's dead,
Yeah, it's
They gotta,
fine. He doesn't need it.
At least there were no eyeballs, I said. Oh, God. They also take all eyeballs. Just kidding. Someone should call Sloan.
Get Sloan on the line.
Lark's like, we should have called Sloan because the two basically spend the entire time trying to gouge the eyeball out. All the while, Connor's laughing at them because he can hear them on the earpiece that they're wearing because, of course. They sprint from the building with the goods back to the van. Fire trucks are en route because they used the fire alarm as a ruse to break in. And once they're back in the van, they're talking about hoping it works to access the records because they only have 40 days before the killer strikes again. Back to the Phantom, who delivered Mr. Tremblay to God 2 weeks ago. He's now here for Ethel. She, in typical old-ass lady form, who gives zero fucks fashion, taunts him with talk of regretting not stealing Bob Foster's recipe when she had the chance and letting a woman named Jenny go home with a man who, quote, ate her ass 6 ways to Sunday instead of taking him home herself. She talks about how her husband of 62 years never ate her ass once. And the Phantom snaps. He prays and then injects her like with some medicine into her IV drip. This is where we learn that he is Harvey's brother. Unsurprising given he's from Texas, and that's where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.0 happened from Butcher and Blackbird. Remember where they kiss to the sound of chainsaws ripping in the background? Ethel's final words are, "Touch my Lark and he'll kill you," to which the Phantom replies, "I hope he tries." Lark is sitting at home when she receives a call that Ethel's gone. Her mom asks if she wants them to wait for Ethel from the nursing home until Lark is able to get there, and Lark's like, "Obviously, you dumb bitch." She calls Lachlan to tell him the news, and he's like, "I'm going to come get you." She's like, "No, I'm just going to Uber, meet me over there." He's like, "Okay, cool. I love you." This is the first time that he said that. As she's getting ready, she hears her dog start growling, and she's like, "What the hell? The Uber must be here early." So she checks, and she's like, "No, he's still 10 minutes away. Let me go see what my dog's growling at." She walks out and sees Abe standing in her living room. He then sedates her. She slips away, and her dog's like standing protectively over her, like snarling. And then, of course, if you're like me, you're like, "Oh no, the dog.
Not the puppy.
Not the dog." So Lachlan shows up to the assisted living facility. That's where that chapter ends. And then we flash over to Lachlan, who's at the old people home. And he's like, "Where's Lark?" He texts her. She's not answering. He calls her. She's not answering. Connor calls him with images that he pulled from Stan's computer. A tool that is familiar to Lachlan, a hat. And Lachlan's like, "Oh my God, I know who that hat belongs to. Tell me everything that you know about Abe Midas." That's the guy's full name. Then he describes the man to Lark's family, telling them to text if he shows up, to which the receptionist is like, "Oh, Steve? He just left like an hour ago." Lark's father is very clearly concerned, and Lachlan tells him, "I will find her, even if I have to kill every person in this goddamn city to do it." Of course, Rowan and Sloane aren't around, but Lachlan calls them anyway. He also calls Fionn and Rose, who meet him at the apartment. When they get inside, they find the dogs all bloodied up. He tells Fionn he doesn't care if he's not a vet. He has to save the dog, and then starts looking for Lark. So remember, Fionn's a doctor. He's like, "You better save that fucking dog. If I come back here and that dog's gone, you're done. You're next." He's calling her. Every single call is going unanswered. He's like, "Lark, Lark, Lark." No response. He's actually starting to lose it. And Rose is like, "You got to think, dog. Like, there has to be something out of place." So he takes some time. He finds it. The Phantom, as it turns out, was spying on Lark from across the street the whole time. He gears up to go. Rose is like, "I'm going with you." Fionn's like, "Please don't do this. Please don't." She looks him dead in the eyes, and she's like, "I love you, but I'm going." He's like, "The fuck?" Okay. He can't process the information. She's like, "Save the dog or this asshat's gonna kill you." And I just heard it in the, "I'm taking the dog." Dumbass. They break into Abe's apartment, finding a lot of evidence of his obsession, and then Connor calls, and he's like, "I got nothing." They realize Abe is a made-up name. Midas is a made-up name. And then they realize that his last name is actually Mead, and that's when Lachlan pieces everything together. They find that he's Harvey's brother. They find a map that indicates the Phantom may have taken Lark to Portsmouth, so they take off like bats out of hell to save Lark.
Bats out of hell.
Bats out of hell. That's one of mine and Kelly's catchphrases.
Yes.
Lark comes to, and she's like, "Where the fuck am I?" She's feeling around in darkness, trying not to have a panic attack, and then she's like, "Okay, there's glass right there. Is it a window?" She starts screaming, "Let me out," and then a light suddenly flicks on, then off, then on, then off.
Oof.
And then she kind of like finally brings herself to stand up, and Abe leaves the light on, and then she's like, "Okay, I know where I am. I'm inside a batch oven that my family uses to bake these goddamn muffins."
Oh my gosh.
Abe is, typical Abe fashion, reciting scripture at her. She's reciting it right back, telling him that she can also cherry pick. Then Lachlan shows up. Abe tells Lachlan he has 1 minute. He has to choose Lark, who will literally be cooked if he doesn't, or choose his brother, who is barreling toward them in a car with his wife, unknowingly driving a bomb that will go off if he doesn't choose Rowan. So Lark is like, "Fuck that shit. I'll choose for you. It's your brother." Lachlan's like pounding on the door, screaming her name as she says this, and then you hear a gunshot go off because Rose truly is the head bitch in charge.
Wow.
They break Lark out of the oven with another well-placed bullet. Rose confirms that the car has not blown up yet and that Rowan and Sloane are safe. Lachlan tells Lark to never do that again because she's his person, and then he actually kind of tears up a little bit because he loves her so much. So he's then released from Leviathan. They're with Leander signing a contract for the Kovaci family. They toast with some beers from Lark's brother-in-law's brewery, and of course she's drugged Leander again because why miss a chance? The pair go home. Lachlan tells her he has a gift for her, an early birthday gift. It's a safe for her trophies with a new trophy. Our guy preserved Dr. Campbell's heart in resin for her. She's overcome with emotion. "This is the best present I've ever gotten," she squeaks out. She fucking sobs as she wraps her arms around the cube and hugs it to her chest. Relief washes over me as I pull her into my embrace. Her body trembles as she lets go of at least some of this pain that's haunted her for so many years. And I know this isn't just something she wanted, it's something she needed. He's like, wait, there's one more thing. She like glances over her shoulder, and then there's one item left inside, and it's a manila envelope with her name on it. She opens it up, she gasps, and she pulls out the documents, and it's an itinerary with pre-booked honeymoon trip to Indonesia that he had printed out earlier that day. She flips it open, and there are divorce papers in there, and she's like, what the fuck is this? When I say nothing, she turns to face me and finds me down on one knee. A fresh wave of tears cascades down Lark's cheeks in shining rivulets. She can't seem to land on furious or elated or purely overwhelmed, but they all seem to combine when she says, what the hell are you doing? Proposing by the looks of things, I say with a glance at the diamond band I hold between us. She's like, hey man, quick question, what the fuck? And he's like, you made this vow to save me, to save my brother, your best friend, but I want you to choose the future you want, Lark. You can dissolve this marriage, or we can do things another way. Maybe we can start over and pretend we first met at Rowan's place, or we can stay married, have the honeymoon we talked about. You said it would be Indonesia if this were real. She takes a deep breath, can't really swallow. Hard for her to take her eyes away from him, to let him like kind of look inside of her. He says, this is real to me, Lark. I know I promised I wouldn't let you go, but I was wrong because this decision is more important than me keeping my word. And for what it's worth, I hope you choose me in whatever way that needs to be. I'm asking you to stay with me, but I want you to choose what's right for you. So she rips up the divorce papers and proclaims that she chooses him. She's madly in love with him, and he better not ever give her divorce papers again. He's like, okay, I love you too.
You're stuck with me.
And he tells us, I choose her like I will every day to come. Epilogue, we're in Rose's perspective now. And I was like, oh, okay, this is different. It wasn't really an epilogue because we're back in the moment where Rose shoots Abe. She's like injured and fading. She lays on the floor, but Lark and Lachlan are too wrapped up in each other to notice. And then Fionn like bursts onto the scene, screaming her name. She can't call back because she's like about to pass out.
Yeah.
He sees her. He's panicking. She's like, oh, at least as I go into the light, my love is here, you know? I see the light. He's her person. As she fades, she tells us she sees the burst of white light, and then the book ends. And I was like, oh, okay, but there's a bonus chapter. And the bonus chapter is told from Lark's POV. It's an entirely smut scene. They're in Indonesia, and she pegs him for giving her divorce paper. And it's not even like she pegs him for giving her divorce paper. She pegs him on top of the shredded up divorce papers.
Oh my gosh. The drama.
Okay, so there was a few notes that I had. Once I switched over to listening to the audiobook and reading along, I didn't know what to expect, but it's told in duet style, meaning like even if it's Lachlan's chapter, if Lark is speaking, it's the woman's voice.
Okay.
And same thing for her. It was a really immersive experience, but I was not prepared for the moaning that was happening during the spicy scenes. And I was like, oh my God.
That's a lot.
I didn't like this one as much as Butcher and Blackbird, but I do still have fun, and I will stand by you all reading Butcher and Blackbird first. It was a 3.5-star read for me. I think that I liked the characters and plot more in the first one, because this one, it was kind of like, I mean, could you feel it? It was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I forgot that there was a murder mystery going on.
I know, same. I didn't read it, but I'm sitting here listening, and there were things that I was like,
what?
Wait, who's Rose? Who's this?
Yeah. I definitely feel like I am looking forward to Rose and Fionn's story. So far, Rowan is my favorite of the Kane brothers, but that's that. We're going to go because
we're
starving.
My stomach is growling.
Mine too.
And it's almost 8.
I only ate cheese sticks for lunch today and salami.
You
so
always do this.
So love you guys. Links in the description as always. Subscribe and like.
Like and subscribe.
Or else. Bye. Motherfuckers.